I've got really exciting news for Quad Cortex users, and that's that Neural DSP has just released CorOS 3.0. Now, there are a lot of big changes in this new S update. Let's take a closer look. Now, the big news, which Neural DSP has been talking about leading up to this release, is that the Quad Cortex is now compatible with Neural DSP's plugins. The first two compatible plugins have been released simultaneously with CorOS 3.0, and those are Archetype Gojira X and Archetype Plini X. And we're going to take a closer look at everything that's included in those plugins a little bit later. Now, this is a huge step forward for the Quad Cortex because those plugins are just fantastic running on computer, and now you have that same power right inside your Quad Cortex. According to Neural DSP, we'll be seeing more and more of those plugins coming throughout the rest of this year. Now, in addition to this, another major new feature is sidechaining. Now, sidechaining allows you to take the signal from any point in your signal path inside the Quad Cortex and use that to trigger an effect. They've released a number of effects that are compatible with that, different compressors, a doubler, a blender, and so on. And again, we'll take a closer look at that a little later in this video. Of course, there are many other changes inside of CorOS 3.0. We now have custom folders, which makes it very easy to organize all your presets and sounds. We've also got major MIDI enhancements. For example, with preset load, you can now send 12 MIDI messages. Each time you press a foot switch, you can send 12 assignable MIDI messages. And when you're using an expression pedal, that can send out 4 MIDI messages. So we've got a ton of MIDI control added if you're using the Quad Cortex as the centerpiece for a larger system. We've now got multi-select, so you can choose multiple items inside the Quad Cortex and perform operations on those simultaneously. It really speeds things up. We've got dynamic latency compensation, lots of other changes as well. But let's get to those big two changes, plugin compatibility and the sidechain. Before we do, a quick word about updating your Quad Cortex to CorOS 3.0. It's a very simple operation. Just get your Quad Cortex onto a strong Wi-Fi connection that's very consistent, very stable. Perform a backup, because you don't want to lose anything that's inside your Quad Cortex that you want to keep. And then allow up to half an hour or so for the Quad Cortex to go through its entire updating routine. It's going to reboot multiple times and so on. There's a lot to download. So a lot's happening with this OS update. Just give it plenty of time to do it before you get back on your Quad Cortex and start making music. A big question is how you install the plugins into your Quad Cortex, and the answer is you really don't have to. When you install the CorOS 3.0 update, the Gojira plugin and the Plini plugin will be there. Basically, what you need to do is just link your Quad Cortex to your Neural DSP account where you have the authorization for those plugins, and they'll automatically start working inside the Quad Cortex. It's very clean, very easy. Now let's jump in and take a look at those plugins we've been talking about. So as I mentioned, we have Gojira and we have Plini. Now when you go into your Quad Cortex and you add a block, you simply scroll up here to the top to where it says plugins, click on that, and we have our two plugins that are compatible here, Gojira and Plini. If we select Gojira, we'll see all the different modules that you can load into those blocks. So we've got 3 different amplifiers. We've got a number of different cabinets as well, mono and stereo cabinets. We've got an overdrive, a dirt pedal, delay, reverb, a reverb with shimmer, which is a very nice addition. We've got an octave effect, wow effect, chorus, phaser, and so on. So we can load any of those that we choose. If we choose, for example, the phaser, it'll load right up here. We can click on that, and it appears as anything else does inside your Quad Cortex. Now the cool thing is that we can mix and match. So I can take blocks from the Gojira plugin, I can use the Neural DSP blocks, I can use blocks from Plini, all in the same preset and use them to process my signal. Once your plugin is active in here, you have access to everything just like it's any other feature inside the Quad Cortex. So let's go ahead and delete that. We'll drag it over here to the trash. So what I have set up right now, we'll go ahead and turn this off. I'm in stomp mode. I've got the clean amplifier and I've got a stereo cabinet. Go ahead and engage the Gojira reverb. Now this, of course, gives us lots of options. We can set the decay, we can shape the tone of the reverb, and so on. We also have a delay. We can go ahead and turn that on here. I've got it set for ping pong, so it's doing the stereo thing back and forth. If we go up to the front, I've got the Gojira overdrive here. So without it, with it, it's just so easy to create great sounds using the plugins and, of course, everything else that's in the Neural DSP. If we go back and turn the delay and the reverb on, That's a really sweet overdrive for everything from high gain settings to more broken up sounds like that. I've also got some other blocks loaded here from the Gojira plugin. If we select this one, it's the Octaver, turn that on. There actually are 2 octaves there, so we can roll this back to just the dry tone. Then we can bring in an octave below. And we've also got 2 octaves below, which is a huge sound. It's really aggressive. The final block I have loaded is the phase shifter. Let's switch over to that. We can choose to sync the sweep of that to the tempo as well if we're running it into our quad Cortex. So a lot of flexibility with these modules, and as you saw, there are many other Gojira modules in that plugin as well. Now let's take a look at Plini. We step up here to the next preset. I've got a basic setup here with an amp, with a cabinet, stereo cabinet again, delay and reverb. Up front, I've got a compressor, but we can put whatever we want from the plugin. Again, if we go up here to Plini, we can see we've got cabinets, we've got amplifiers, we've got drive, we've got delay, pre-delay, reverb, octaver, chorus. So we have many options here within the Plini plugin as well. We'll leave this set at the compressor for right now. You can see it's a very straight ahead compressor, compression amount, level amount. We can turn that on. It makes it so easy to get those liquid lead tones, but of course it's also great on clean sounds, funk rhythms, all those kinds of things. If we bypass that, what else do I have loaded here? I've got the drive loaded up. If we engage that. Here's without. Here's with. So I'm front-ending the amp even more. Change it to a fuzz. Basically infinite sustain when you engage the fuzz along with that lead amplifier from Plini. Our next effect from the Plini plugin is the octaver. It's a little bit different than the one that's in Gojira. So in this case, if we open this up, we've got our direct level, we've got an octave up as well as an octave down. Got the octave down. Once again, you can create huge tones by mixing in those octaves and emphasizing the octave above and the octave below. I've got one more block here. Let's go ahead and turn that off. And that is the chorus from Plini. You know, I'm going to change this to the clean amplifier. We'll just go back to the plugin, select clean, come back over here. Make up our output a little bit, give us a little bit more highs. So we've got a nice clean amp there. Now if we engage the chorus, we'll open up the plugin, go ahead and engage that. Let's set our mix all the way up. Let's turn our depth up, and we'll set it to vintage mode. That's a very lush chorus, adds a lot of movement to what we're doing. And we also have that spatial mode, which gives us a widening, sort of ambient type of effect. Not quite as watery sounding as the vintage mode, but a very useful sound as well. So that's a taste of what Archetype, Gojira X, and Archetype Plini X can do for you. More plugins will be coming throughout the year, but these two are a great start. There's a ton of great tones available here. Now let's move on and talk a little bit about sidechaining, because this is another big change inside the Quad Cortex. Now, sidechaining is a little bit difficult to explain, but the idea is that we're using a signal, whether the actual guitar signal itself from somewhere in our signal path, or an external signal, which we'll see in just a second, to trigger another effect, or to provide an input to another effect. So let me show you what I mean. I've got just a basic clean sound here. I've got a Fender style amp, I've got a Fender 2x12 style cabinet, just a basic clean sound. Now I can add distortion to that with the Brit Governor Overdrive. But I'm going to engage a new plugin, which is the Transparent Blender. Now this plugin allows you to mix the incoming guitar signal, which in our case is now going through that overdrive or distortion pedal, along with the dry signal. So if I turn this on, you can see here on my source, I've selected input 1, which is where my guitar is coming into the Quad Cortex. And I use the blend control to go from the purely dry signal to all the way the other direction, will be 100% the overdrive. But I can blend back and get a combination of those two for new sounds. Now you can do this with any plugin. It's just going to take your incoming guitar signal, and it's going to take the signal that's being processed in your signal path and use the blend control to blend them together. There are a couple different types of blend blocks that you can load up. There also are new doubler blocks. And one I want to show you is a new compressor block that allows you to sidechain as well. There are several compressors that do, but let's take a look. So let's go ahead and we'll turn off that overdrive. I'm going to turn off the blend, and I'm going to go to the end of my signal path here where I have a compressor loaded up. So let's go ahead and take that as it is. So right now it's set up so it's barely triggering, but I can use an external source. Actually, I can use an internal source as well. I could tap off of the signal path anywhere I want using the source signal. I've selected input 2, where I've got a microphone plugged in. This is a Telefunken TF11. It's a condenser mic. Now what's going to happen is when I play the guitar, the signal passes through as normal, but when I talk, the sidechain is going to engage that compressor and push the guitar signal down. We hear this type of effect all the time in, say, ads and radio commercials where there's background music, somebody talks, the music drops down, comes back up when they stop talking. Let me show you what I mean. Test 1, 2. The release control on the compressor determines how fast that signal will return back to its normal level. So this is sort of an extreme example of one way you can use sidechaining. Let me push this back out of the way. There are lots of other possibilities as well. You can really get creative with this sidechaining. For example, you could use a sidechain from the beginning of your signal path to trigger an envelope filter that's at the end of your signal path. And that would give you a little better control, a little better response from the envelope filter. There's different types of compressors. You could compress more when things are loud, so on. So you have a lot of possibilities with this sidechaining. It's a deceptively powerful feature that's been added into CorOS 3.0. If you're a Quad Cortex user, then you definitely need to get CorOS 3.0 into your Quad Cortex and start using it immediately. Even if you don't own the Gojira or the Plini plugins, CorOS 3.0 still has a lot of new features for you to check out, including that sidechaining we talked about, but multiple new blocks that you can use as well. For example, I've got 2 here. Let's turn off that compressor. Let's turn on the plugin 9, a new graphic EQ. Very easy to have this and be able to engage it to match the sound to different rooms and so on. Nice EQ that's included there. We'll turn that off. Let's go back here. Another new one is circular delay. Now this is a multi-tap delay. I really enjoy this plugin. So if we bring this in, a multi-tap delay basically gives you rhythmic delay effects. So let's turn our mix up so we can hear a little bit more of that. Straight ahead delay. If we go to the first tap preset, you can hear there's sort of a dynamic thing happening there with the repeats. Go to the next preset. Those are really fun to play with, and they can add a lot of character to your playing, or even just use them as ambience in place of a reverb. So if we turn on our overdrive here, it's a very powerful tool for creating ambient effects, but also, again, just adding those reverb type effects to your playing as well. Circular delay is a great addition to the arsenal of sounds that are available in the Quad Cortex. So thanks for checking all this out with me today. I'm really excited about CorOS 3.0, and I'm super excited to see the rest of the plugins get loaded in here as well, so we can all take advantage of all those amazing sounds that we've only had on our computer so far. The Quad Cortex was super powerful before, and now it's better than ever. If you have questions about the Quad Cortex or any of Neural DSP's products, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or jump over to sweetwater.com for all the answers. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.